and we'll go from there. So today we're talking about getting ready for a communication device trial. I'm Amy. I'm one of the speech pathologists here at Link Assistive, and we've also got my colleague Charlene on the chat as well. Link Assistive has, how many speeches do we have now? We have 4 speech pathologists now that are here to support you during your trial of any of our systems. So today we're speaking specifically about trialing and giving you some tips and tricks. So let's go. So we're going to talk about how to access support for a trial, things that you can do before your trial, including setting goals. We're going to talk about trial data and also evaluating the trial as well. Today's webinar is all related to our communication device trial guide. And for those logged in, Charlene's just put in the chat the link to it. If you're watching this on recording, then you just need to go to the resources section of the Link Assistive website. So what we're going to do is a quick poll just to see how many devices people have trialled in the past. So I'm going to quickly launch our poll. If you can click in what you've done, 3 to 5, 5 plus, great. All right, so we've got a few trials happening. All right, so what we're going to talk about first is how to access the support, and there's lots out there for you. Your supplier, in this case, Link Assistive, if you're trialing one of our devices, is a really good source of support for the trial. It's always good to get in touch with them before you start your trial so they can be available at a time that suits you. There are lots of online supports, particularly from the manufacturers of software and devices. They have their own support websites. Sometimes they have online chat as well. You can find Facebook groups for most of the devices and companies. There's some user groups, and often you can find really good information in there, or post a question. I'm sure your colleagues are also helpful. Google is a great tool. More and more YouTube clips are popping up around how to edit, how to use different devices. And there's also quite a bit of support from professional organisations now. For example, Speech Pathology Australia has a really nice guide on how to write NDIS reports and things as well. So there is lots of support available. Please get in touch with people as you need to. So the first thing I like to think about when I set up for a trial is thinking about goals. I think sometimes we think about goals once the device arrives. If we can think about it beforehand, that really helps us set up the device and make sure we're really targeted and making the most of our short trial that we have. So goals for trials are designed to achieve the broader communication goals. You might have a really broad NDIS goal for your client that's something like will improve their communication, and our job is to be able to narrow that down and have some specific goals that we're looking at for the trial. You might set these goals for multiple trials. Maybe you're trialing an iPad app, then you're trialing a device from Link Assistive and one from another supplier. It can be helpful to keep your goals consistent during these trials so you can compare outcomes and see which one really suits what that client is trying to achieve. We are getting feedback from the NDIS at the moment that they like to have really specific goals in your assistive technology applications and that you describe the trial outcomes and data. They have been mentioning about goals across the 4 areas of communicative competence. If you're not aware of the 4 areas of communicative competence, it's something that Janice Light came up with in the research. It's really well documented, these 4 areas of competence. There's more information in the trial guide if you need it. But essentially, we think about goals across 4 areas: the linguistic, been the language and the grammatical type goals that we set, like might combine words together, we'll use describing words, those kind of things. Operational goals is quite specific to AAC because users also have to learn how to operate their device. This is where you might set goals like is able to select a target on the screen, or if you're trialing eye gaze, is able to hold their eyes for 1.5 seconds to select something on the screen. Maybe another goal around operational is being able to navigate the folders to a familiar word or vocabulary. We also want to think about social goals because ultimately communication is all about interaction. It's about building relationships. So it's good to have a social goal in there. It could be anything from, greeting others, telling a joke, maybe taking turns in a conversation. And then we have strategic goals, which really hone in on our multimodal communication strategies. We know that a device isn't the magic thing that's going to be the only way a person communicates. We still want to think about their natural behaviours, their facial expressions. If they use keyword sign, maybe they use a low-tech communication book as well. So you might want to set some goals around your user recognising that, hey, my device is really good to use in this situation, and maybe I need to use a different strategy in another. So we often think about these 4 areas of competence when we're setting goals for trial. There's some resources out there to help you set goals if you're new to it. Pathways for Core First is free. I'm going to show you that one in a minute. I really like this document by Indigo in Western Australia. They've got some information around setting goals and some links to further resources as well. So if there's anything else you use, type it in the chat, but you may like to explore these ones if you're new to goal setting. I'm just going to dive into the goals grid in Pathways quickly because it's a nice way to show you different options for goals. So I'm just going to launch my Pathways software. It's a free app for iPad or free on Windows 10. And when you launch into Pathways, you'll see a goals grid down the side here. It's got lots of other things like lesson plans, top tips for things, but the goals grid is what we're going to focus on. There's a video that will explain to you how to use it, but I'm just going to jump into it today. So we've got our 4 areas of communicative competence across the top, and then it's divided into our kind of 5 communication levels. So if I jump into linguistic, you'll see that there's some potential goal outcomes here. So communicates by pointing, eye gaze, or pulling, and you select either met it or maybe we're working on it. So you could scroll through here, think about your person that you're trialing with and see if you think, oh, actually, this would be a really good goal. We'll communicate to control an activity. For example, using more, finish, stop, go, or something like that. Then you can close out of linguistic and you can do the same thing going into different operational goals. So maybe you're working with a really emergent user and one of your goals is just for your user to attend to the AAC system, look at it and maybe show attention to modelling of their system. Up to maybe someone who you're working with, maybe someone with a degenerative condition that's really working on being able to navigate their device and use eye control. Maybe they want to be able to send an email, those kinds of things. Then the same for social and strategic. So it's a really useful tool. You do get a percentage up in the corner here of how many skills have been achieved. Sometimes I like to do this before the trial and then repeat it at the end of the trial and during the trial to show, well, maybe with that device, they can show us more communication skills. And that's a nice bit of data that you can use to support any NDIS applications and support for more therapy, those kinds of things. So I find goal settings really important because good goals lead to really clear outcomes and that helps us justify accessing a device. Before the device comes, we really recommend getting to know what software you're going to use. For the Link Assistive devices, they come with a range of different communication software, and each has its own vocabularies and different ways of laying out language. If you're not sure about what setup would work best for your client, that's something that the team here at Link Assistive is available to help you with. We can talk to you about your client and what kind of vocabulary might suit for the trial. In the trial guide, you'll notice that there's a kind of a table to record the device name, what software you're using, what page set and vocabulary you're using. It's really important to record this. Maybe you move on from your workplace, or you've done a few different trials and it's really hard to remember back to the first trial you did. So it's always good to write that down. You can also become familiar with the software before you start the trial. So I think nearly all the software now, certainly Snapcall, First, Communicator and the Grid 3, have demonstration or free professionals access to the software. And what that means is that you can download it onto your own computer, onto your own iPad, just to have a go at and start to explore before the trial arrives. It's only a short trial. Ours are 3 weeks. Some suppliers are less than that. So you really want to try and make the most of it. So if you've got that free demo software, you can customize the vocabulary, you can save it, and we can support you to transfer that onto your trial device. I'd really recommend booking yourself some time to learn and play with devices at the start of the trial before you head out to see the client. It is really helpful to be able to unpack the box, turn it on, and just familiarize yourself a bit before you go out. During the trial, often our clients need quite a bit of support in using the device, and this depends a little bit on their past experience. But have a think about how much support they might need. Have a think about what capacity you have. If you get offered some dates and that's not suitable for you, maybe you're going on leave, or maybe the family's away or booked in for medical appointments and things, it's okay to delay the trial. You can always let us know and say, it's not a good time, can we push it back a bit? Because it's really important people have that support. I try and visit the person, or at least over telehealth, once a week when I'm doing communication trials, if not more, if they're new to it. We've also got a resource called the Communication Device Personalised Vocab Template, which can be really useful for collecting information about what we need to personalise and customise. All the software now has, I guess, pre-prepared vocabulary in there, but we often want to collect a person's personalised vocabulary, like their specific people, activities that they do, places they go, to really personalise the device for them. That's a good thing to start talking with the family before the trial, so you have that all ready to go and program. You can also start modelling before the trial. If you're working with communication partners that have never done modelling before, aided language modelling, I'd start this off before the device arrives, so you start to get some of their skills up and it's not so scary when the device arrives. You can print off paper-based versions of the software. Snapcall First you're able to print from, Grid 3 you can print from. So maybe you've customised prior to the trial, print off some of the pages and just start to model in different activities. Point to the pictures as you say them so people become familiar where those words are located and what those symbols look like. We can coach communication partners using low tech. And this also gives you an opportunity to think about what's fun and motivating for your user and have in your mind some activities that you're going to do during the trial. I really like this Facebook account, the AAC Coach. I think she's a speech pathologist over in the US, and she's got lots of bite-sized information that she posts on her Facebook page that gives you some ideas about modelling and also AAC in general. Also, before the trial, just check that you've got the accessories you need. Oh yes, she's also on Instagram. Thanks, Charlene. Before the trial, check your accessories, make sure you've got key guards if you need it, mounts, switches, those kinds of things, so that our loans team sends it out to you prior to the trial. Tech support's available throughout the trial, so if something goes wrong, it freezes, the software's not working, the eye tracker's not working, please get in touch. We're here to help you. If you connect the trial device to Wi-Fi or to a hotspot on your phone, our tech team can log in and we can take over the computer and resolve any issues. Where possible, it's handy to book this in advance, just so our tech team's ready for you. You can do that by ringing, you can email them, and we also have on our website a support request button if you need it. It's really good to help families know where to access support as well. They might not be able to get hold of you, but families and clients are welcome to call us as well for tech support. If it's all going wrong and maybe just before your trial or at the start of the trial, something happens, people are sick. We had one recently that a cyclone went through, fires, surgeries, all those kinds of things. Life happens and we understand that. Get in touch with us if something happens, and we can work with you to either reschedule the device trial or extend it if we're available to do that. So you can just contact our loans team to be able to resolve that. Another section of the trial guide that you'll notice is about recording outcomes. Ensure your goals are measurable, because good goals equal good data. So we've created some data sheets for you in the trial guide. You might like to change these depending on your goal and have your own way of recording data. Some of the systems have inbuilt usage counts, which you could use for collecting data. Maybe get clients and families just to jot down cool things that happen during the trial that really meet those functional outcomes of what you're wanting. Photo and video can be really helpful, particularly if you have a complex setup, maybe someone using eye control and you've used the mount and got a really good position. Take some photos of this so you can replicate it for your next trials or when devices arrive. A really big tip from me is to read the NDIS assistive technology application form before your trial, so you know what information you need to collect. The NDIS regularly updates this form, so download it directly from their website. Just double check what you need to collect, so that then if the trial is successful and you go to write it up, you've got all the information you need. So we often get asked, what is a successful trial? And I think it can look really different for different clients. For some people, they'll get their communication device and they'll start using it for communication. Maybe they've got really good receptive language. They've got literacy skills, so they pick up their device and start using it. For others, it might look different to that. You might find that the user enjoys interactions more. Maybe they're attending more to their communication partner as you're modeling vocabulary. Maybe they're starting to babble on their device, explore it, press buttons. Maybe the trial was successful not because that device was perfect for them, but I found out more information about my client. I found out that, hey, you know, they do have quite good touch skills, or you know what, touch access isn't going to be a good option for them. Maybe I need to trial a different access method. Often in AAC, we talk about dynamic assessment. You know, until we put something in front of someone, it's really hard to know how they'll go with it. So trials are all about gathering more information and part of that dynamic assessment process. Maybe success is that our communication partners have learnt skills. Maybe they've improved in their modeling. Maybe they feel comfortable with the device. Maybe they've learned to edit buttons on the device, and that might be a sign of success for you as well. Maybe you found some potential in your client. Maybe they've used more vocabulary. Maybe the device trial met the goals that you set. Maybe it met some of their NDIS goals. Maybe the trial wasn't so successful, or it was okay, and you've decided, well, we're going to rule out this device or this piece of software over another one, and that's okay as well. So successful trials can look different for different people. I think it's important to talk to clients and their families and caregivers about what you're looking for in a trial. What does success mean to them, and how are we going to measure that in our goals? You may find also that you are comparing features of different devices that you're trialing. So maybe you're trialing different screen sizes, different software layouts, maybe you're trialing different access methods. Make sure you record this and how the client went with it. So we've got a feature matching tool. It's based on the Katea Hill Matching Persons with Technology model. And it just gives you some suggestions of different features you might be looking for. So you can look at the different considerations like the symbols, the navigation, different functions. Is it needed by the individual and why? And then maybe tick and cross if each device that you're trialing has those features that you require. That's also available for download from our website. At the end of the trial, you want to evaluate it. I always recommend evaluate at the end of every trial rather than at the end of like 2 or 3 trials, because you forget what happened. So sit down with the client, with the family, caregivers, and think about, well, what were our overall impressions of the device? What was its strengths? What was its weaknesses? Did it help achieve their goals? Do you think it met their needs now, but also into the future? Because we're looking at growth in our devices as well. Will it meet any changing needs? Am I working with someone who has a degenerative condition? Will this software be able to be accessed by switch or eye gaze potentially down the road? So think about those changing skills, changing access, maybe changing language growth. If you're working with young children, can it grow and have more vocabulary? NDIS likes us to think about if things are cost effective, so perhaps think about that and think about how different and similar devices compare with those feature matching. Probably the biggest question I ask is, does the individual and the family want to go ahead with the system? I did a trial the other day, rang the family and I said, what do you think? And they said, we like it, we think it's okay, but we're not ready to go ahead with purchasing yet. They really wanted to do another trial and they wanted to just consolidate skills and make sure that it was the right one for them. So probably the biggest message when you're doing device trials is to give yourself time. Time before, time during, and also time after to evaluate and write the applications. So as I said, make sure it's a good time for you and also for the person you're working with. So for further information, you can catch us at Link Assistive. Our phone and email is there for you. We can help you in deciding what devices to trial, thinking about planning for your trial, and also any technical support that you require. At the end of the trials, if you need quotes for purchase and things, we can do that as well. So thank you for taking the time to listen in about getting ready to trial. And if you have any questions, please get in touch. Thank you. And I'm just going to open up the chat as well. So if there's anything that people would like to chat about, please let me know.